With that, I saw Ryan jump on, and I think I drove into your time a little bit, Ryan. So sorry about that. But that was really kind of looking at all that research. I will tell you, I will share all the research reports that we included there. We'll have that included with our drop of all the recordings as well. And with that, I do not see I don't see any questions on any of that area. So I'm gonna, I think, ask Ryan to jump back on, and then we can kind of get you started back onto the technology front as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, no worries. Ryan, I think it's your show. One thing I do want to do, and Ryan, do you want me to share the video that you guys had with Charlotte Mecklenburg before your presentation? And I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Give me 1 second. But Ryan, if you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
Yeah, my name's Ryan Alou. I'm a product evangelist and partnership manager for FMX. I've been with FMX for 5 years, and FMX, we're a CMMS platform, facility management software. I started at FMX as a solutions engineer and moved over into this role recently. So I've been working with facility leaders across the US for the last 5 years and understanding folks' issues and how technology can help them make their teams work more effectively and more efficiently.
Fantastic, great. And with that, again, FMX is a really good partner. They have a great solution, and here is a kind of a case study or a look on some of the work they were doing with Charlotte Mecklenburg here. Ryan, make sure that everybody can hear this. I'll just confirm.
I can hear it.
Started in Charlotte Mecklenburg, we had a massive, when I
Does
say
that work?
massive, it is gigantic deferred maintenance list. They had been following a practice where you just turn it on and run it, and when it breaks, you replace it. So where FMX came into play was it not only allowed us to produce a list of what was deferred maintenance, but to show that the work had been done through the work order system. So once we went through that cycle and showed them, they were willing to give us more money as we were continuing with our FCA. We gave them some preliminary data, and they said, of course we don't have that much money because it's quite a large amount. But they did say, based off of what you're doing, that we can see that you're now making the investment and spending the money, the taxpayer dollars, the way that you're saying, and we have visibility into it so we can defend it. We're willing to make that investment. When I started in Charlotte, one of the first things they asked us to do was look at utilities. They had just had the old adage, they just essentially turned the building on and then ran it. But a lot of our buildings weren't on schedules themselves. So once we put them onto schedules and started to determine, really when does the building need to be at full capacity, we were able to start to see some really big, changes. A lot of our buildings, I don't want to say the majority, but we had about a third of our buildings were putting out about $3 a square foot. We wanted to get down to about $1 a square foot. And so based off of just changing schedules, talking about community use, really investigating what was happening in the buildings, we're starting to initially see a potential savings almost $10 million. One of the things that I'm really excited about for the future is we're getting ready to really start diving into Capital Planner and how we're going to utilize that to reinforce our 10-year master capital improvement plan for Mecklenburg County. And Capital Planner really is going to be a tool that allows us to have some really rich conversation with people that not only provide us funding, but need the understanding about the true picture of what's happening across the county. It's really more of a conversation about when do we actually take this next step? How do we plan for these next steps instead of meeting that roadblock that you might have met before and have met in some of those situations before?
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Oh,
Ryan,
Chris, there you go.
yeah, Ryan, see if you can take over sharing privileges, and we'll pass you on here.
I just sent a request to share.
Okay. Great. Can you try it? Try it one more time. Fantastic. Great. Looks great.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I'll make sure to monitor the Q&A and I'll jump on towards the end, but looking forward to learning a little bit more about AI.
Yeah, absolutely. As Chris just mentioned, we're talking about, embracing technology in our day-to-day as facility managers, and how AI can help us in that, and also help, our products that we're using, and how our, different software sets and things like that are embracing AI and making it built in and a little bit easier to use from your all's perspective as well. Already did introductions, right? So I'm Ryan Alou here. To start, and again, we can just use the chat feature here, so we won't spend too much time on this, but what is your organization's affinity towards technology and AI? I've worked with some school districts that are embracing it and kind of, doing the full spectrum one way where they're required to be in a certain amount of time. Also, I've worked with school districts that have publicly kind of renounced it, right? And said, hey, we're not going to be using certain AI tools on their own, those types of things. So, there's a broad spectrum. So if you want to just throw in the chat there, kind of, what your affinity towards technology and AI is, that would be very helpful as we're moving along here. So technology in operations management, right? So I'm sure all of you know some of these terms here, right? Facility management software, whether that's comprehensive, CMMS, capital planning tools, IT ticketing, one-to-one asset management, right? Reporting technologies, those can all be considered a facility management software. There's acronyms all over the place of what these are called anymore. In my personal opinion, I think the term CMMS is a little outdated because most CMMS platforms are doing multiple things and not just doing work orders and getting tickets through and assigning work, right? Internet of Things, IoT, very general term used. In operations specifically, this is your sensors that live outside of your building automation system, live metering, temperatures. That way you're getting real-time information and being able to bring that into your facility management platform to take action, those sorts of things. Obviously, you all know building automation systems. I'm sure a lot of you live in your building automation systems day to day. Controlling your HVAC, your lighting, security, right? Whatever we can connect into those ecosystems can make life easier, but also can be overwhelming there as well. The newer term as software and facility operations platforms have advanced is predictive maintenance, right? We all know reactive, we all know preventative. This term predictive maintenance has been something that has been hard to get into in the past because of cost, because of access to, because of how complicated it could be to make it run. We're seeing that become more and more of a frictionless process, right? We are seeing folks popping up all over the place that are able to ingest the data that you have, whether that's from your BAS, your sensors, or otherwise, and be able to use AI tooling to then make recommendations on what is going on. I've seen some pretty cool tools out there that, in the past, we've seen sensors being very binary, right? 1 on, 0 off in terms of that alarm. Now we're seeing data being able to be passed through and actually say, hey, we're getting close to this not being okay versus us hitting that alarm threshold. Let's go out and take a look and see what's going on, right? Even to the point of, hey, on the utility side, let's shed some load at these different times to be able to save some money there. AI solutions, right? And what does that mean, right? I think the term AI right now means different things to different people. Sometimes when you hear AI, you think ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, those sorts of direct AI tools. And of course, the AI solutions, I'm sure you see it on everybody's web page, on their front page. Hey, this is our new AI tool. The honest answer there is AI has been around for a long time. LLMs, data tables, being able to pull from, and being able to reference in an automated way. It's just become a lot more accessible and a lot more advanced, obviously, in the recent years with the little AI boom that we have going on right now. And our data analytics, right? So this data that we are creating in our platforms, whether it's work order tickets, preventative maintenance being done, utility information, what do we do with that, right? In the past, we had tools like Power BI and things like that, those business analytics tools that we had to make connections between and do in that way. That has become, again, easier to do with the modern AI tools that are available to us. So when we talk about FMX in general, right? A little insight here, and facility management software. We talk about that all-in-one solution, right? That ability to take different parts of your operations and be able to consolidate them into one system. Because as we know, it's tough enough to get folks to log into one system, let alone 5, right? So whether that's through integrations or different offerings in a platform, being able to reduce the number of technologies that we have is always beneficial, right? Because not only is that going to allow us to get better data in, it's going to allow us to have better actionable insights based on the data that's being talked across those different product sets that we might have there. So, simplify, become more efficient and more effective in our day-to-day, take out some of those things that on our daily tasks maybe take an hour, but end up taking an hour and a half, 2 hours. And, then we get meetings put on top of it. We get backtrack or backlog by a day, and then we have to catch up, right? We all know those things happen all the time there. So in FMX, right, our different product sets, we're going to talk about a couple of these, and we're also going to show you guys a couple of these as well at the end of the presentation. Right, so our work manager, that is our CMMS system, right? Your work order management, your preventative maintenance tasks, your dashboards and reports, baseline asset management in there. And in our system, we are K-12 focus, right? We're built for K-12. So we like to make things as simple as possible. Easy UI for your folks on the ground. It's simple and easy to use. For your admin, for your people doing things like data analytics, it has a powerful backend to allow you to aggregate that data and make informed decisions on that. Right, event manager. So the other piece of operations, especially in the K-12 worlds, that we see being very important is event management. And what we mean by event management, facility requests, right? You have the Boy Scouts want to use the gym, your football team needs to use the weight room, whatever it might be. Your middle school band wants to use the high school's performing arts center for their recital, right? Things like that. Being able to organize that to make sure that not only do we have a good picture of what's happening and when it's happening, but also mitigating the times that maybe the Boy Scouts walk in and the football team walks in to this room at the same time, and then there's a conflict there. So being able to resolve those easy. And then this is one of the few places that K-12 in particular can make some money, right? And can offset some of their costs and put money back into the schools is by renting these out to the community and being able to invoice those in the same system and being able to track that money makes it an effective tool as well there. The other one, and this is one that we are seeing become more and more important in K-12 in particular, as funding is being reduced and resources are becoming more important, is capital planning. And our capital planner tool is something that is extremely beneficial. And what's interesting is in previous years, these things were separate, right? You had your capital planning tool, you had your CMMS. Didn't make a ton of sense to have those things separate since we're tracking maintenance costs and asset history in our CMMS. So putting those together and allowing them to talk together gives us a really good outlook on what to prioritize in terms of asset replacements based on maintenance cost, based on number of tickets created, time, right? Cost is important, but time our folks spend on these assets is as important as well. So at FMX, we view, we have this pinwheel here that we like to look at, and how we look at our data-driven decisions. We start at assess, right? So, and this is in FMX, in our platform, less than 10% of the organizations that utilize FMX have a complete, reliable view of their assets across their schools, buildings, whatever else it might be. Folks just, sometimes don't know what's there. Maybe, Jim's been at the school for 50 years. He knows where everything is, right? But what happens when Jim leaves, or when we need to make a decision quickly and Jim isn't there to give us his insight, right? So having a database that holds all of that information, where it is, what's been done to it, is incredibly important for not our guys on the field, but our boards that we're talking to, our bosses, right? And when we're communicating, hey, we want to replace this, first repair it, tell us why, right? So that assessment is kind of that starting point on the pinwheel. Plan, right? And once we've done our assessment, now we need to plan, what does this outlook actually look like? How do we make decisions on what our capital plan is, or where our focus needs to be on renovations? Are we just going to tear down a building and build a new one, right? Starting to plan those things and utilizing that data to make those informed decisions there. Manage, which this is where we find a lot of our folks are in that kind of pinwheel here. We're managing, we're doing our day-to-day operations, we're making sure everything is getting done. We're checking our daily tasks, we're seeing what's happening in our platforms and where all the work is being spread out and done, and making sure nothing's getting overlooked, right? So that last section, optimize, that's where we would love everybody to be, right? Whether that's realistic or not, it's kind of like that, preventative maintenance. You're supposed to be 70% preventative, 30% reactive, when most of the time we're kind of flipped on that. So yes, we all would love to get to optimize. This is when we start to talk about that predictive maintenance, that, being able to, use our integrated systems to make decisions and be able to automate what's happening in our buildings as effectively and efficiently as possible. So, when we talk about data and we talk about these data-driven decisions and things like that, what impact does that actually have, right? And gathering that data, and having good data in a platform that's easily accessible and reportable. Number one, protect your team, right? My time, when we have conversations with folks in all industries and sectors, we start to show them some of our reporting, team performance reporting, things like that. You start to see, especially the maintenance techs, they're like, oh, this feels a little bit brother, right? But I can say for certain, 98% of our customers that have utilized those reporting in a good way have saved jobs and even added jobs at time of budget cuts. Because a lot of times, as you all know, our maintenance teams, folks don't completely understand what they're doing on a day-to-day. They just know that something's been fixed, right? It's easy for other departments, whether that's teachers, otherwise, to kind of silo and not really understand the entire picture of facility operations in K-12 and others there. Protect your budget, as I said there, right? Budget cuts are coming. Being able to have this data available to say, hey, this is, most of our budget, or a good chunk of our budget, goes to our utility costs in our schools, but our annual, capital budget is a certain amount, and we're seeing, costs rise, and we can kind of show those trends and say, hey, this is what it's going to cost for us to be able to run effectively in our planning. And then obviously at the end of the day, protecting our district or our organization is the most important. When we talk K-12, higher ed, anything in there, the students' experience is the most important, right? There's a ton of studies and information out there on how facilities impact student learning. And at the end of the day, that's, why our buildings exist, right? Is to be a safe place for students to learn and to grow in their education. So kind of moving into that AI conversation, right? When, again, AI gets brought up, a lot of eyes roll, a lot of, size and AI, right? So kind of want to chat on what are some of those common concerns and how do we address those as well? Will AI replace our staff, right? In that we're hearing that all over the place, right? We're seeing big tech companies lay off developers and things like that, especially early on in the boom when they're like, oh, AI, we can just automate that. Well, in reality, it's turned out a lot of those folks have been hired back because AI was more expensive than an individual. AI is a great resource, a great tool, a great assistant, right? A great way to read giant databases that we don't want to have to comb through manually, anything like that. AI is not going to replace someone turning a wrench, right? It might make their jobs easier, it might make them be able to be more efficient, but it's not going to replace those folks. So being able to automate those repetitive tasks, I saw a good one. It was like, don't start with automation of things that are annoying for you to do. Start with things that are boring for you to do, that you have a lot of knowledge on, so you can ensure that the AI is automating those tasks in a good way and then build off of that. So this frees up some of our folks. And one thing I do want to show today, hopefully if we have enough time, our utility utility product. We built this product because we heard a lot of, hey, my admin assistant hand enters all of our bill information into a spreadsheet. It takes them, 8 hours every week to do that. Let's give them those 8 hours back to do actual administrative work that's going to benefit their growth or the district's growth in a better way, right? So now the goal, at least in my mind with AI, is reduce some of that mental burden, some of those bandwidth burning tasks that we're doing on a day-to-day, so that we can open up and be able to grow in other areas or focus on other things that are more relevant, more important to our day-to-day operations. How do we know we can trust AI recommendations, right? That is always the big thing. And there's resources out there if you're using something like Claude or Gemini, right? I think right now the biggest database that if you just ask Gemini a question, it's going to look at Reddit, right? Which is a social media platform. So being able to add guardrails to your conversations, there's a lot of ways to do that within AI platforms like Claude and Gemini and things like that to make sure that it's focused in giving you reasonable answers back to what you're doing. But also if we talk about softwares that are building AI tools within their product, are typically building those with general guardrails, so it's not going out and looking at the internet or things like that to give you, hallucinations for some of their answers they're giving. However, it is always anything that AI gives you, review it, right? I can't tell you the number of times I've received some documentation from folks or anything like that I'm like, I know this is AI slop. I know you didn't look over it, so now I'm not going to read it, right? So definitely leveraging AI and reviewing its work and making sure that it is saying what you want it to say is very important when using AI, right? So the big opportunity on this is being able to design your workflows that fit your needs and put up those guardrails on your AI so that it's only looking at the things you want it to look at. We don't have enough good data to benefit from AI, right? That might be true, but any data is a good starting point to start to build off of and to start to learn how AI interacts with your data, so that moving forward, you can make sure that the inputs that you're getting are reflective of the AI tools that you're using, right? And can be leveraged by those AI tools. And honestly, AI can be used to clean up some of that bad data. Hey, we just have a bunch of, I don't know, files, or we have a FCA that was done that's in a binder, but we don't have a digital copy. Technically, you can scan every single one of those pages and get AI to transfer that into a digital database for you, right? So AI is good at that. AI is really good at databases. AI is also very good at creating prompts. That's one of the things of working with my team internally, certain things we're doing. If you ever are going to create a complicated prompt or want a really specific outcome, ask AI to help you build the prompt. They're going to help build those guardrails in the prompt. They're going to help you get to those outcomes as needed, and they're going to do it a lot better than at least that I can, right? I do that quite a bit there. So, clear instructions, guardrails, important for AI, validating your results, which we talked about. Check the facts there, and then provide feedback to your AI. A lot of times AI tooling has memory. So being able to say, hey, this was good, this was bad. You gave me this answer, I expected this answer. It can log those things, or telling it, hey, ignore that in the future. Then in the future, it will know to ignore those certain things that you're talking about. So how do we get started, right? Use what you have, right? Whether that's if you're a Google Shop, Google Workspace, Gemini, things like that. I also like to say start small, right? Like I mentioned before, some of those boring tasks how to do, that you're an expert in, to kind of see how AI interacts with it and reacts to it and what results it gives you. Even like I planted I planted a bunch of daisies in one of my garden beds, and I used AI throughout that project. I was taking pictures of the daisies, asking it to give me suggestions on what watering needed to be done. It told me, hey, you got some bugs that are eating it, put down this kind of thing, and watching that and using that in just a daily task project. I think using tools in your day-to-day helps you understand those things as well. In FMX, any new team members we have, I always suggest them to make an FMX account for their house, right? Put in your task for your house, your air filter changes, those kind of things, and just get used to how you would use that on a day-to-day. Gathering data, right? Whether that's through an FCA or having your folks go out into the world and get that information in. AI is very good at leveraging data. Prompting, as I mentioned before, using AI to write prompts is very helpful, and you can start to see how it thinks and how it creates prompts so that you can make better prompts in the future as well. Building your own tools, all of these, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they all call them different things. Gemini calls them gems, Claude calls them skills. I don't know what GPT is calling them these days, but these are tools that you can build in AI to automate those workflows and what you're doing in a day-to-day basis. I have my Claude account at 5 p.m. every day. It goes through my Slack, my Gmail, my calendar, and it produces tasks out of those for me and follow-ups and things I may have missed to help me stay on track. Because I'm, traditionally been everything's in my head. Now it's helping me get it out of my head. So when we talk about AI tooling, one thing FMX is doing, we are building what we're calling FMX Iris, and it is going to be a agentic AI experience within our platform, right? So sometimes softwares will say, hey, we have an MCP connector, which allows you to connect a tool like Claude to your platform or anything like that. That's a great start. But that's one of those things you ask a maintenance tech or something, hey, connect your Claude account to this MCP, and then, work within Claude to get results, and can be confusing. So our goal here, as I mentioned, ease of use is key. We want everybody in your organization that uses FMX to be able to leverage the AI experience within the platform, to be able to talk to it in plain language and get results that they might want there. Okay. So questions, and Chris, how am I doing on time? I think I have a few minutes here.
Yeah, you're doing great. So one question I have, you kind of mentioned AI slop a little bit, and you also mentioned kind of using the AI to make prompts, right? For then prompting AI, which is I think a good strategy. Are there any things that you can put on your prompts to make sure the AI slop and some things like that are not happening?
Yeah, absolutely. There are resources out there. I actually, in my Claude instance, in my About Me folder for Claude, that it looks through before it gives me any answers. There is a link to it's actually a Wikipedia page that talks about AI slop language and how to identify AI languaging and those kind of things. So it uses that as a resource to avoid replicating those things. I still get a lot of the M dashes, if you know what that is, right? The long dashes there. That's okay. But it does help and make it talk to me in plain language. You can also tell it, hey, one thing AI is very flattering, right? It wants to say, hey, you're doing great. You're doing awesome. You're doing really good. This is the smartest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Um, Adding in those things to say, hey, don't do that. Be critical of what I'm asking. Ask me questions back before we get the outcome and the end result. So we get as close as possible. That really helps mitigate some of that AI slop instead of it just agreeing with you and producing what you're asking it.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I once had AI tell me that there was an attachment because I said, "Hey, can you attach, there?" And it said, "Oh, see the attachment." And then I said, "Well, where's the attachment?" It said, "Well, I was doing what I thought you wanted to hear."
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it
Exactly.
definitely is trying to do that. I'd be curious. So with some of the facilities data, and I know you guys have AI in the product, but what have been some interesting use cases? Or is there any that kind of come to mind in terms of how districts are using it, or how they're getting insights from some of the data that they're doing, and what that impact has been?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to I was at the Appen National Conference last week, and I had one of our customers from Wright State University in Ohio. He came up to me and he said, "Hey, check out this thing I built using Claude." And let me pull this up here. So he used Claude to build this dashboard that sits in their maintenance room every day that they can look at. This is pulling in information from FMX. It's pulling in information from they have weather information for advisory status on, I think this was during we had that crazy air quality in Ohio because of the wildfires going on. And it's also giving him some analysis on a day-to-day basis, right? One of his issues, they use the clock in, clock out feature on tickets at FMX. They had guys just leaving tickets open, putting in 80 hours of work over 3 days, right? So on this, it'll alert them and say, hey, this ticket's been open for a while. We need to track that down, those sorts of things. So just using this as kind of his command center, and doing this completely separate from the tools that we're building right now too, which is very cool that he was able to do this. And he's actually taken this and turned it into an email that gets sent out on a daily basis to stakeholders within his university to keep them updated on the goings on of maintenance. And he built all of it through AI. He's obviously very tech savvy, has it running on a Raspberry Pi. So it's kind of in its own world, and being able to do that automation. He said he was on iteration like 35 when he talked to me, right? So that's kind of another point to AI is you can always iterate on what you've done, and a lot of times it takes some fine tuning to get to the endpoint that you want to get to. But I thought this was a very cool, and I definitely wanted to make sure to share
Yeah,
this
no,
with
that's
everyone.
awesome. That's really cool. And yeah, the vibe coding elements of, using
Mhm.
Claude and things like that, it's incredibly powerful
Yeah,
to do it,
absolutely.
especially for a layman that isn't necessarily a developer, which is really cool. And then I would say last question we have here is just, how to get started. What if they were going to do one thing with AI, tomorrow? What would be, a kind of an idea of, how to get started with, leveraging it to help them with their day.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's again, kind of take one of those boring tasks that you do every day, whether that's at home, at work, whatever it might be, and figure out a way to automate that, right? Feed it into AI, see what suggestions it has. Start with boring so you can get to the advanced stuff later, and you're more comfortable as you're growing to the more advanced operational stuff you might want to do with AI. Maybe that's, an automated email every day, right? Sending out to certain stakeholders to ask for updates or give updates on what you might be doing. But taking those kind of simple things and starting there, that you have your head wrapped around it. That way you can understand how AI reacts to it. I think is a great starting point.
Fantastic. Great. Yeah, it just takes using it. I think the more you use it, the
Hmm.
better it becomes, and the more you become it becomes easier, right, to get the results you want, which is very cool. Awesome. Well, I highly suggest everybody take a look at FMX, especially a lot of the things that are doing it from an AI perspective. And so we'll have this recording available for everybody as well, as we kind of send it back.
Awesome, great.
Brian,
Thanks,
I just
Chris.
want to say thank you for your sharing here. It was great, really, really interesting stuff. So thank you again for your partnership.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks, Ryan. And I think with that, we're going to do some kind of closing remarks, and then we'll send you on your way. And so I think when we